This screencast is on Keats's poem Ode on a Grecian Urn, which was published in 1820. I always think it's a good idea to pause a moment to take a closer look at the title. When I teach my humor theory class, I talk about how jokes almost always employ words that can be read in two different ways, such as the old standby, what's black and white and red all over. The word red in that question can be used two different ways, as the color red or as the past tense of the verb to read. The meaning of the question changes greatly depending on how you interpret that one word. I use the term hinge word for words like this because the meaning of the jokes hinge upon the different uses of the word in question. In this title, the hinge word would be on, because we could read it two different ways. We could interpret on to mean about, and that this poem will be about a Grecian urn, or we could interpret it as upon, so that the ode is already present upon the surface of the urn. Either way would work, but which way you choose to interpret it will color your reading of the poem. I love the way that Keats plays with words in this ode. For instance, the very first line, "Thou still unravished bride of quietness." In this line, the word still is another one of those hinge words that I talked about. It could mean unmoving, like when you tell someone to sit still, or it could mean yet, as she's still not here, or it could mean quiet, like walking in a still woods at night. Any of these interpretations changes the meaning of the line. Keats is a master of this linguistic art. In case you don't know, Grecian urns almost always had illustrations drawn on them. In his poem, Keats is looking at the illustrations, describing them and thinking about them. We'll look at a couple of stanzas in order to better understand what he's doing in this poem. Stanza 2. Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore ye soft pipes play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared, pipe to the spirit ditties of no tone. Fair youth, beneath the trees thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Keats is saying that although music is a wonderful thing to hear with our ears, that the music we hear in our imagination is far better. We know that the image on the urn that he is looking at is of a young boy sitting under a tree playing a flute, and it might have looked something like this. Here's the boy playing the fruit. I keep wanting to call it a fruit. That's a whole different thing. And here's the tree under which he's sitting. And because his image is on the vase, the boy is frozen in time. We can't hear the music that he's playing, but we can only imagine it. Also, the tree under which he sits is like him, frozen in time. It will never grow, but neither will it ever lose its leaves. The stanza continues. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss, though winning near the goal. Yet do not grieve, she cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss. Forever wilt thou love, and she be fair. Now we learn that the young boy playing the pipes is not the only figure in the image, but that there are two lovers there as well. They are frozen at the moment before their lips meet and will never be able to consummate their kiss. It's very like this picture. If these people were frozen in time, just frozen this way, they're going to be that close to kissing and never be able to consummate it. Keats is saying that although that might be frustrating, just remember that the young man's love will never die and the young woman will always be beautiful. It's the same sort of immortality through art that Shakespeare lauded in his sonnets, although he was talking about poetry rather than visual art. Another scene on the urn is described in stanza 4. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar, O mysterious priest, leadst thou that heifer lowing at the skies, and all her silken flanks with garlands dressed? So in this scene there's a religious procession, leading a cow to be sacrificed. The cow is decorated with garlands of flowers, much the same way as this one is. What little town by river or seashore or mountain built with peaceful citadel is emptied of this folk this pious morn? And little town, thy streets forevermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate can e'er return. Keats is imagining that if this procession is frozen in time, that somewhere across the mountains perhaps is the town where they must have come from. It too is frozen in time, but is empty, because all the people are here where we can see them. He can't see the town in the image, but he imagines it, in the same way he imagined the music in the second stanza. His imagination makes the town exist, and so he's exhibiting the godlike power of the creative imagination. The poem ends with two of the most cryptic and hotly debated lines in all of British poetry. Beauty is truth, truth beauty, that is all ye know on earth and all ye need to know. The note on page 1848 of our anthology lays out the argument much better than I could. It says, the quotation marks around this phrase are found in the volume of poems Keats published in 1820. But there are no quotation marks in the version printed in Annals of the Fine Arts that same year, or in the transcripts of the poem made by Keats's friends. This discrepancy has multiplied the diversity of critical interpretations of the last two lines. Critics disagree whether the whole of these lines is said by the urn, or beauty is truth, truth beauty by the urn, and the rest by the lyric speaker, whether the ye in the last line is addressed to the lyric speaker, to the readers, to the urn, or to the figures on the urn, whether all ye know is that beauty is truth, or this plus the statement in lines 46 through 48, and whether beauty is truth is a profound metaphysical proposition, an overstatement representing the limited point of view of the urn, or simply nonsensical. Wow, that is a note. And really, to my ears, this is what poetry is all about. Allowing you to roll around meaning in your brain like a big bright marble until it settles in and makes sense to you. Interpretation is personal and profound and is always a dialogue, a negotiation between you and the text that you're reading.